Hello folks, and welcome to my game room slash arcade slash studio tour. This is the 1st of October 2017, and a lot of you guys have been asking what the room looks like lately, what changes I've made to the room, and what's going on in the arcade. And other people have been asking me what's going on in my studio. So originally I was thinking about doing this in the winter, but I'm actually going to do it now because I actually have the time to. So why not, I figure. So yeah, this is mostly the console game room here, though I do play PC games in here because this is where my heavy-duty gaming PC, well, it's not really heavy-duty anymore, it's actually pretty ancient, but I can still game on it, and I do a lot of video editing on there for various projects like the YouTube channel, GamerLogic.net, the Casual Mark Wrestling podcast, as well as Unleaded Logic. So, what are the major changes in the room this year? Well, the biggest, in my opinion, is first the desk you see here. This really isn't your standard mill desk. About a year or two ago, I bought this glass black desk. Didn't really have a lot of surface room on it, unfortunately. It was cramped, didn't have a lot of room to move the mouse or put whatever I needed to put onto surfaces, so when I temporarily moved my gaming setup down to the basement because it was just way too hot up here during the summer, I had all my equipment down there on these two tables, and it just worked out really, really nicely as far as being able to put the big screen monitor here, my two monitors here, and then just having a ample amount of surface room where I can read, work on other projects, stuff like that. And the PC actually has moved down here. Originally, it was over there. And I find now that it's on the floor, the noise isn't as much of an issue as it used to be when it was, well, which makes sense, ear level. So that helps tremendously in that aspect. So I also had a subwoofer and a pair of speakers that I used pretty much for the PC setup, and that has changed as well. If you notice, there are no speakers on the desk itself. Instead, we have a pair of JBL bookshelf speakers here that I now have mounted into the wall. I got these stands on Amazon, and they work pretty nicely, though the little side pads that actually hold the speakers in fall off pretty easy, so you got to get this goo to kind of get some extra security on them. And if you do that, they stay put. I have not had these crash down on me and kill me or kill anything in my setup yet, which is nice. But these speakers are very nice and loud. They got a nice analog sound to them. And with that, I have no speakers on my desk getting in the way, and no real need for a subwoofer. I need that more down in the studio than anything. And I guess we should talk about where I got those JBL speakers from. And that kind of fits into this section here. A lot of this stuff is brand new and was not in any of my previous game room stuff. Some of it is, some of it isn't. I was actually looking for a stereo receiver that had a regular phono input into it. I started getting back into turntables again when I was a DJ. I bought almost everything exclusively on vinyl in the late 90s, early 2000s to mid 2000s because that was just the format that everything was in. And, I had mixers and everything else, but that stuff is huge, and I wanted just a nice, easy way to plug in my turntable and plug in other stuff if I needed it too. So I was on the search for a very nice amplifier that had some phono to it, as well as some other inputs so I could hook up the PC and other stuff to it. Well, I'm looking for stuff, and I'm looking at Craigslist ads and other advice, and my local record shop actually had not only the Sony receiver, but this nice dual tape deck, a Sony CD player, which fits nicely with my Sony VHS, my JVC box, but they also came with those JVC speakers you see there that had all the original remotes, less than $100 that cost me, which was pretty awesome. So now I got this whole very nice stereo setup, and my buddy Chris gave me this really nice Sansui turntable from the 80s. So when I want to listen to records, then I can do it on this guy. And this is not actually what I use to record the game music videos you see that pop up from time to time, but still a great turntable just for listening. Classic. Don't have to worry about any pitch adjustments or anything. It does it all for you. You guys want to hear what these speakers sound like? This is Shinobi 3 I currently have on here. Return of the Ninja Master. Let's drop it down and you can hear this thing for yourself. Let's turn this guy up, right? So as you can see, sounds pretty good, and again, nice and up above ear level, sounds great. And if I want to switch to my PC or games, I just hit video here, and we're good to go. We got our regular audio for that. Excellent. Let's take the needle off the record here. Turn this off so we can have some quiet. And yeah, that's the setup there. So that's pretty much brand new. And we've moved the systems around too. We got this stand back in here. So we got the Genesis, the Saturn, all the wonderful systems that I play on a regular basis. The stuff that I do not play on a regular basis, those go over here on this little table slash entertainment center here. So I don't have room to instantly have them plugged in and ready to go, so I just kind of use it as a modular system. I bring them over when I need to. And then with that being said, you'll notice that there is no TV in front of the window. That was another big thing I wanted to do, is I was tired of basically blocking myself in this room and not having access to the window, not a lot of airflow, so that's helped tremendously in here. And now, as long as whatever's in front of the window is actually underneath the window, I'm good with it. More of my game soundtrack collection, as well as various soundtracks. There's Akira, just pick that up. Some great stuff really being put on vinyl. You know, I never really got into the CD collecting of video game soundtracks. I did during the mid to late 90s. But for whatever reason, I've always loved the vinyl format. And like I said, I always picked up a ton of vinyl records for my DJing. And this kind of brought me back into that. I actually got a hold of many portions of my original collection that were scattered across a few different record stores here in Illinois. I managed to find my original actual store-bought copies that I got. Pretty crazy. But yeah, they keep putting out these great records. Some are bootlegs, some are official, and I just think it's a fun way to collect, especially considering all the archival art and everything they have with it. So yeah, as I mentioned, the Sony TV is gone. That's no longer in front of here. And as a backup, I still have the CRT, this Philips CRT here I have in this Sega Saturn kiosk. If I do want to play stuff on a CRT monitor, I do have a FrameMeister. It looks great, but there's just some stuff that just doesn't represent well on an LCD or LED flat panel like the N64. So when need be, I can plug into this and play games. Right now I do have a Sega Saturn in there, and it's playing Virtual Fighter Remix. Just miscellaneous stuff on the top here. Majority of my import games or my big box stuff, some PSP stuff, Snatcher, Panzer Dragoon Saga, PSP, PS Vita, Sega CD. This stuff has pretty much all remained the same. PS2, Xbox, PlayStation 1, Dreamcast. I've actually slimmed down on my championship belt collection, just down to the ones that I really like, and I'm actually looking for a really nice New Japan Pro Wrestling replica belt. Ryu still hanging out there. The complete in box games are still standing. Don't pick up too many complete in box games anymore. I think the most recent complete in box game I've picked up is Life Force here, and I acquired pretty much everything for it individually. The box and manual just came to me when I was on a trip to Kansas City for the World Series of Barbecue. Closet still has a bunch of crap in it. I've cleaned up. I actually got rid of some stuff, sold some stuff off that I don't use, but there's still plenty of systems in there. And we still have a bunch of games up here as well. SNES, NES, Genesis, Master System, Super Famicom, 64, and more stuff littered around the room. Autographs, Star Wars stuff, arcade marquees, lightsabers up the wazoo, you name it. If it's something I'm into, it's probably up here. So that is pretty much the state of the upstairs console game room for 2017. Why don't we head downstairs? Alright, let's take a break from the games and we'll talk some studio stuff. Over here, this is definitely a new addition to the basement. And I will tell you that this is all my friend Rick's fault. Rick and I have been friends for years, since freshman year in high school, many years ago. And I'd say over the last 5 years, he got into DJing, and that is something that myself, my friend Joe, and even Rick back in the day in high school, and probably myself up to maybe 2005, 2006, DJ'd. And I got out of it because simply it got to the point where I wasn't making much money on it, and I just wasn't enjoying it anymore, and I just wanted to get back to music production because that was really where my heart was. I just got kind of tired of playing other people's tracks when I could spend the time making my own. Well, just recently, I want to say probably March, April of this year, Rick asked if I'd be interested in doing kind of a classic DJ set with him, because even though I didn't have much of my equipment anymore, I still have a tremendous library of dance music, EDM, anything from electronic to trance to house to progressive breaks, techno, you name it. And he brought over this guy you see here, the previous version, the DDJ SX, and man, he had Tractor running on there. He had it hooked up to his laptop. I picked up a few tunes, and holy crap, did I get like right back into it. Man, it's just so hard to describe what that feeling is like, doing mixes, mixing harmonically and just going from track to track. It was very relaxing and very fun to do. And the next thing I knew, I got one of these, which led to me going for the hunt for some classic CD players. This is a Newmark here. This is a different Newmark model. And there's another backup one. I also have these two turntables. Now, these are Crosley C200s, and these by no means are any sort of turntables you should use at a club or anywhere else. But at this point, I really just use these turntables to just kind of play the music, get an idea for the beat, or simply, with the better cartridges I have attached, copy my record collection, which is over here and over there, onto digital so I can play and perform and mix through there. So I've been back DJing again, and I've been doing monthly DJ sets, which are available on my SoundCloud and unleadedlogic.com, and I do them once a month, and lots of fun. I can't thank Rick enough for getting me back into it. So we'll move over to the production stuff over here, and some of this stuff I've had for years. Geez, I guess we'll start with we'll start over here in the audio rack because even though this is a different version of the MS-2000 synthesizer, I originally had one with a keyboard. The rack unit is pretty much the same, just minus a keyboard. You use a MIDI controller or a MIDI keyboard or a regular keyboard to actually control the sound instrument to it. This right here was my first legitimate synthesizer that I picked up in probably 1999, 2000, whenever this thing first came out. And man, I love this thing. And for whatever reason, I got rid of my original one and really missed it and reacquired it. I just love how flexible this thing is with all the different knobs, the cutoff, everything you can do with it. There's just so much customization. For a lot of my recent releases, actually, this thing has been in play a lot. It just really reproduces that classic 80s kind of sounding synth sound that you really want. So I love this guy. I really do. Over here is my Core Karma, which is my first workstation synth that I got probably in 2000, 2001 as well. Another funny story with Rick is I picked this thing up, and I picked it up a couple buildings down from where he worked. He worked at a Starbucks, and he said he'll never forget looking out the window and seeing me running down the street with one of these clutched in my hand, this big box. And there's a huge story with us sneaking it in the house because this thing was quite expensive. I didn't want my parents at the time to know what I spent on it. Kind of funny stuff. So yeah, it's my Ultra Nova 3. This thing is excellent as well. This stuff makes just tremendous sounds. And it's very customizable, but the issue with it is it doesn't have as many knobs as this guy. So you really got to dial into menus and stuff to get it going, which is kind of a pain. A MIDI foot pedal there that my dad gave me. I've been messing with that in various forms and fashions. MIDI controller here. This is a Korg Electride sampler. I picked this up a couple years ago just to start working on drums more in a physical matter rather than being stuck on a sequencer kind of world. A Mackie mixer. This is actually where we record the Casual Mark podcast as well. The in-host guys in the studio here, we record down here, and most people go, man, your acoustics must be terrible, but a good EQ, good sound, and knowing what the surrounding sounds are in your basement, you can record almost anything down here. With the exception of like vocals for tracks, which I really don't record down here, you can record almost anything. We got a big screen here for my sequencer. I'm partial to FL Studio, though I can use Pro Tools. I could probably still use Logic, but it's been years since I've used it. Second monitor there. Studio monitors, and that's most of the stuff in the studio. Let's move on to the arcade. Alright, this is going to get a little loud down here, so I apologize. I'll kind of do a quick tour through, and then we'll talk more towards the other side of the basement here. But yes, this is my arcade, which those of you who have been with me on GamerLogic.net in the YouTube channel for a while already know about this. But if you are new to my channel, or a new viewer, this is my personal home arcade, which is not anything I'd ever imagine I would have gotten into, but I have, and as much as I love this, and I am extremely lucky and extremely thankful to have all this. The sad thing is I'm so busy with my work life, with my personal life, and my hobbies that have basically become my work life as well, such as my music production stuff. I don't get a lot of opportunities to play this stuff. I've maybe come down here and played this stuff maybe 3-4 times this year. And when winter hits, I'll definitely be down here more. But that's the sad reality of it is, you know, getting this stuff. As a kid, if you would have told me that, 20 years from the first day I entered the arcade that I'd have all this stuff, I would have said you were insane. But yeah, sadly I just don't get much time to play this stuff, unfortunately, down here. When I do play games, it's either something modern or it's generally on a console, but it's something I hope to resolve. So, talk about the games really quick. It's going to be hard to see this one. This is Black Pyramid. Unfortunately, it's not functioning. I'm having an issue with the power supply for it, so I got to fix that. The machine that's blaring is F-14 Tomcat. It's a great pinball machine, fast as hell. Here they come. Got Maverick, Lady Luck. So yeah, it gets loud. This Tekken Tag cabinet has a bunch of Capcom stuff in it. I gotta put Tekken Tag back in. Super Street Fighter 2 Turbos in here. Got a Neo Geo cab. Space Duel cabinet running Final Fight right now. Don't have a vector monitor. That's a 60N1. That's good old Killer Instinct. My Japanese New Astro City running very, 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 very great series. Very fun. My Devil May Cry slot machine. Don't have it powered up. And a pachinko machine. So yeah, amazing how the volume changes down here, isn't it? That's my Donkey Kong Jr. cocktail cabinet. So yeah, a lot of great stuff down here. I really explained a lot of the stuff before in my previous videos, so check out my other videos if you're more interested in the details about how I acquired these machines. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed the tour.